Have your attention, please. For your safety, please note the locations of emergency exits. They are identified with illuminated signs and are located in the lobby and the upper seating level at both ends of the building. In the event that an alarm sounds, please exit immediately and calmly as directed by staff and ushers. An automated external defibrillator is located in the lobby. State law prohibits smoking and the display of open flame. Thank you for your attention. The program will begin momentarily.
Welcome all. Welcome to the 2019 Baccalaureate Ceremony. Welcome to parents, family, friends, faculty, staff, alumni, trustees, our honorands, and anyone else who has snuck in the door here. And welcome to the class of 2019. Baccalaureate We may do that a few times. Baccalaureate and commencement tomorrow marks the end of your formal education at Boden. A time to reflect on your 4 years here, and you should be very, very proud of what you have accomplished. We absolutely are. We have 3 wonderful speakers this afternoon. Dean Tim Foster in his last official commencement as our dean with readings from Boden's past. Our student speaker, Gurley and Liu Fung, the winner of the Dalva Stanwood Alexander First Prize. And we have the great good fortune today to be joined by Dr. Earl Lewis, who will receive tomorrow at commencement an honorary degree, Doctor of Humane Letters. Dr. Lewis, whom I will introduce later in the program, is the former president of the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation and is currently on the faculty and the director of the Center for Social Solutions at the University of Michigan. Our other honorary degree candidates and their families are here as well. Nadia Rosenthal, world-renowned geneticist and scientific director of the Jackson Laboratories. Sir Paul Ruddock, philanthropist who began his career in finance and has made preserving, celebrating, understanding, and accessing art part of his life's work. and Sheldon Stone, Bowdoin class of 1974, co-founder and principal of one of the most prominent investment firms, as well as a significant philanthropist whose very quiet but remarkable generosity has made it possible for generations of amazing students, past, present, and future, to come to Boden. Without Sheldon's support, it is not clear that we could be need blind or no loan. To open our proceedings, I'd like to invite George Lopez, our Beckwith artist in residence, and our singers Rowan Etzel, Nolan Roach, and Kevin Yu, all of the class of 19, to the stage to lead us in the singing of America the Beautiful. You'll find the words at the back of your program, and I would ask you, if you can, to please stand. Thank you, George, Nolan, Rowan, and Kevin. So, class of 2019, here we are 4 years later. And after beginning our time at Boden together, you're headed off. You're leaving me, which is great and as it should be, but bittersweet for me, and I will have more to say about that tomorrow at commencement. For now, I'd like you to ask you to hold 3 thoughts in your head: bowling, community, and Iris. First, about bowling. About 20 years ago, the noted political scientist Robert Putnam wrote a rich empirical study, became a book, called Bowling Alone. And in it, he observed that we are becoming more isolated, that the traditional bonds of community were diminished or disappearing, and the institutions of community in America were eroding. Now, we are very lucky. Boden has very strong, very powerful senses of community here. Think for a moment about your greatest accomplishments. Who was there to help make those moments possible, to push you, to challenge you, to share them with you? And think about your moments of greatest struggle here. Who was there to comfort you, to cry with you, or just to be with you? It was your teachers, the staff members you came to know, your classmates, your friends, your host family, and all the others that make up the communities that you are a part of here. They were here for the good and the great times and for the difficult moments as well. And this is what community is. It builds us up. It cheers us on. It makes us better. It reminds us that it will be okay, and it helps us find a way through. In the good times and the great times and in the difficult and the terrible moments, you found communities here, resilient and vibrant communities. Each of you drew strength from them, and each of you made them sturdier and better. At Boden, we have to work pretty hard to bowl alone. But in the world beyond campus, the phenomenon that Putnam described continues apace. And the idea of community, the value of community, is at risk. And the more we allow it to erode, the less we achieve, the more we are diminished, we struggle, and we are less happy. But it does not have to be this way, and you can make it so. And I want to share a story with you about a Boden alumna, Iris Davis. Iris was 1978 and a trustee of the college, and she passed away last year, far too young. Iris came from Martha's Vineyard, not the Martha's Vineyard I think that many of us kind of think about. The island has a rich African-American community and rich heritage there, and she and her family were part of that. Her parents were school teachers, and Iris came to Boden at a time when women had just started to arrive in numbers and there were few black students here. Just over 5'3", Iris was a gifted athlete on field hockey, women's basketball teams, and on our track. And as a senior and co-captain of the basketball team, she was described as the spark plug and the top defensive player. As a field hockey goaltender, she led the state, allowing only 7 goals in 11 games. But she was much more than an outstanding athlete here. She was a scholar and a leader on campus, a history major, active in the Afro-American Society, and she found significant time as well to volunteer at the Brunswick Recreational Center and mentored many, many of Brunswick's kids. After graduation, her passionate concern for public health guided her career. She earned a master's of public health with a concentration in environmental science and epidemiology at Boston University in 1984. She then joined the Department of Environmental Quality and Engineering for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and worked there as an environmental scientist, a position that put her on the front lines of protecting public health. She was in charge of compliance for the environmental cleanups of the famous or infamous Big Dig, a massive undertaking that because of its sheer size and scope presented every aspect of public health issue. She monitored the capping of Spectacle Island in the Boston Harbor, which was once the Boston City dump. And in 1990, she was the Massachusetts State Project Manager for the Environmental Protection Agency's residential lead removal project. She had considerable skills, interpersonal and scientific, and years of experience which could have easily led to positions in the private sector. But Iris felt that for her, she could do the greatest good for the largest number as a public servant and as an agent of change. Iris did serious work, but she never took herself seriously. Before grad school, she went back to the Vineyard and worked for the Board of Health as the sanitarian for the towns of Vineyard Haven, Edgartown, and Chilmark. And it was reported that, quote, she handled everything from restaurant inspections and septic system approval to coastal water management and wetlands. One assignment involved a dispute between a pig farmer and his neighbor. The neighbor complained about the odor of the pigs. Iris's assessment: pigs are pigs and they smell. Throughout these years, Iris stayed close to Boden, volunteering for admissions, serving as president of the Alumni Council, working to advance diversity and inclusion at the college. As a trustee, she was deeply engaged in considering our future, asked insightful and thoughtful questions, provided wise counsel, approached the work with realism, warmth, and a sense of fairness. I attended her memorial service on the Vineyard last fall. She left behind her sister and her mother. As the hour approached for the start of the service, the room filled, and then filled beyond capacity. Then speaker after speaker rose to talk about this remarkable woman, from her life growing up on the Vineyard, her Boden years, her work in environmental protection, her coaching and mentoring, and her many, many, many friends. It was something to behold, and the tears flowed. Iris was not rich or famous. She seemed to shun the spotlight, but she had an immense impact on those who came to know her. It was so clear to me, sitting in that room on that sunny, warm fall day, just what she had done for everyone around her. She is a person that built community. She was a source of strength, bringing others together, usually for something fun or positive, but also in the deepest and darkest moments. Iris never let anyone bowl alone. And I share this with you because you should know just a little bit about Iris. She devoted her life to improving the lives of others through her leadership and her commitment to public health, her service to Boden, but maybe most importantly in the way that she built community. And she was something special because of this. So to our graduates, as you begin your journey beyond Boden, I suggest that you think about everything that you have gotten from your communities here. Think about Iris. Take those experiences, spend time building your own communities wherever life is going to take you. They will make your life more joyful, richer, and they will touch the lives of everyone that you come to know. And you can make it so. Thank you. I'd now like to invite Dean Tim Foster to the podium for readings from Boden's past.
Boden's campus is intimate and contained, but in the beginning, it was just plain tiny. Back then, in the early decades of the 19th century, the entire campus was just a small corner of the quad we know and enjoy today. A rectangle with Massachusetts Hall on the northern edge, Winthrop and Maine on the east, and a small wooden chapel out in front of Maine, its front door facing Mass Hall. Back then, students could roll out of bed in Maine and Winthrop and be in Mass Hall for meals and classes in less than a minute, and worrying what to wear didn't slow them down. Now, many students have lived in Winthrop and Maine over the years, including some of you. But in all this history, only one student's presence has been memorialized with a plaque. Standing with your back to the door of Adams and looking up toward Winthrop, you can make out a rectangle of white marble just below a third-floor window on the northeast corner of the building. Step closer, and you can read the inscription, College Room of Longfellow, 1823 to 1825. Henry Longfellow was one of the first students to occupy New College, as it was called then. He lived in room number 37 with his brother Stephen during his junior and senior years. Living in Winthrop was a very new and exciting experience for young Henry, and I do mean young. You see, Henry was already a published poet when he began his studies at Boden at the age of 14. During his freshman year, he lived at home in Portland. For his sophomore and junior year, he lived with his brother at the Titcomb House on Federal Street, which we know today is a recently renovated Stowe House. So it was only when he was a junior that Henry experienced true campus living for the first time. In September, he wrote to his parents, "I feel very well contented and much pleased with college life. Many of the students are very agreeable companions, and thus far I have passed my time very pleasantly. The students have considerably more leisure time than I expected, but as the season advances and the days grow shorter, our leisure moments must necessarily be considerably diminished." Henry was excited about simply being a student at Boden and living on campus. In October of his junior year, Henry wrote to his brother, "I feel far better contented here, far more happy, and far less inclined to be low-spirited than has ever been the case in any former period. You must not be surprised when I tell you. I wish to not come home. No, not yet. Not for weeks, months. Well, guess what, parents? Many of them will be coming home tomorrow." As Longfellow approached the midway point of his senior year at Boden, he was beginning to feel the pressure every college student before and since has known. Yes, class of 2019, this is a constant. The pressure associated with questions about what comes next. Parents and family, be gentle. It turned out quite well for Henry and for the generations of Boden students who came thereafter, and it will work out for your graduate as well. Henry had a pretty good idea about what he wanted to do after college, but probably like some of you, he wasn't so sure that it was going to fly at home. Even in 1825, and even with a talent as immense as his, one had to negotiate with parents about future plans. "My dear father," he wrote, "I take this early opportunity to write to you because I wish to know fully your inclination with regard to the profession I am to pursue when I leave college. For my part, I have already hinted to you what would best please me. The fact is, and I will not disguise it in the least, I most eagerly aspire after future eminence in literature. My whole soul burns most ardently for it, and every earthly thought centers in it." The response from home was, well, not what Henry wanted to hear. Imagine that, class of 2019. But he persisted, writing again, "My dear father, from the general tenor of your last letter, it seems to be your fixed desire that I should choose the profession of the law for the business of my life. I believe I have already mentioned to you that I did not wish to enter immediately upon any profession. You must acknowledge the propriety and usefulness of aiming high, at something which it is impossible to overshoot, perhaps to reach. I have a most voracious appetite for knowledge. To its acquisition, I will sacrifice anything." This year, America and Boden celebrated the 212th anniversary of the birth of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Looking back on his life, and especially at his accomplishments at such an early age, it might seem that his success was preordained. But as he sat where you sit, even with all that success, even with all that confidence, nothing was certain. Longfellow wrote to his sister Anne, "In 5 weeks we shall be set free from college. Then comes commencement. And then I cannot say what will be after that." Henry Longfellow, who would go on to be arguably the most popular literary figure in 19th century America, was at his commencement clearly already a gifted writer, able to convey detail in vivid ways. Tomorrow, as you pack your rooms, say your goodbyes, and linger just a bit longer, reflect on the following words that Henry penned in a letter to his father during his junior year. The term is about closing, and many of the students at least have gone. Now and then there's a solitary footstep at the entry, a solitary rap at the distant door, the noise of the falling latch, and then all still again. The words of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, a member of the Boden class of 1825. Thank you for listening.
Since our first commencement in 1806, seniors have competed for oratory prizes and for the honor of addressing their peers here this afternoon and again at commencement tomorrow. It gives me great pleasure to introduce this afternoon's speaker, Gurley and Liu Fung, the recipient of the Dalva Stanwood Alexander First Prize. Gurley is an Asian Studies major born in Hangzhou, China. Houston is her hometown. During her time at Boden, she, for the first time in her life, immersed herself in student theater productions, not knowing stage left from stage right when she began, but mastered many technical skills from lighting to sewing. She says her theatrical experience has taught her to always have a sense of humor even when the pressure is on. Good advice for a president. And she's tried her hand also at playwriting and directing. She served as a senior interviewer for admissions, a tutor with the America Reads and Counts program, and a member of the Common Good Grants Development Committee. and she was a co-leader of Cash Coalition, a group that helps families file their income tax returns. Gurlin is a gifted linguist and has studied overseas on multiple occasions, spending a semester in Japan, a semester in Sri Lanka as a Gilman Scholar, and a summer in Indonesia with the Critical Language Scholarship Program. And after Boden, she will return to Japan to take part in JET, the Japanese Exchange and Teaching Program, where she will be working in local government on cultural exchange programs. Please join me in welcoming Gurley and Liu Fung.
President Rose, members of the college, and guests, Assalamu alaikum. The response is walaikum salam. Thank you all for being here this afternoon to celebrate your loved ones and the Boden community. Before anything else, I would like to invite you to join me in giving acknowledgement to and appreciation for the historical Wabanaki land that we are all gathered on, to the land, air, and water that nourish us, support us, and enable us to be here. Thank you. I am beyond grateful to be given this opportunity to share with you today a journey of personal growth through language learning. However, sitting in the audience, the one person that I want to share this message with the most may not fully understand me because of a barrier in English. So to my mom, 等一下我会翻译给你听. As you can see, English has not always been my language choice to express myself. I was born in Hangzhou, China, during the time of the Mandarin-only education initiative, while my family and neighbors communicated in our local dialect. While Mandarin united China, it separated me from my background. At school, I was taught that speaking Mandarin marked being educated and of a higher socioeconomic status, while our local dialect indicated an older, outdated generation. I honed my Mandarin pronunciation excessively, became proudly monolingual, and took great pride when a teacher told other students to mimic my pronunciation. However, those glory days soon ended. In 2005, spring of second grade, my family moved to Houston, Texas, and I became mute at school. We lived in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood with many children learning English at school, but they would sneak in Spanish with each other while I couldn't. I couldn't even distinguish between the two foreign languages, nor could I muster up the sentence to go ask for permission to go to the bathroom. My parents insisted on speaking only Mandarin at home, both out of necessity and out of determination, so I could keep up my Mandarin skills and not lose my connection with my family and culture. I learned English from books, from television, and from making phone calls to company on behalf of my mom, who does not have the privilege of learning as I do. The divide between the languages and my personalities in them widened. English existed for formal communication and the battle of the outside world, where I needed to speak up for myself and make myself heard. Mandarin provided a shelter for my delicate, fragile feelings, where I had the luxury to continue to act like a child. Until coming to Boden, learning a new language had been out of necessity. Whether the English I needed to function in society or the useful Spanish I absorbed through hearing my neighbors discipline their children, every language had to prove itself useful before I would give it attention. However, at Boden, under the freedom of the liberal arts education and the general cluelessness of a first-year student, I began learning Japanese, the language of China's historical and political nemesis. I didn't have a specific goal, such as wanting to work in Japan or to watch anime without subtitles. I joined simply because I felt an immediate personal connection to the professors and my classmates from day one. My senseis began class not by drilling us with grammar or vocabulary, but by teaching us how to turn in our homework or enter an elevator under Japanese cultural norms. While stumbling through conjugations and mispronunciation mishaps, I delved into Japan's history and the complex interpersonal relationships embedded in the language. I started to reflect on my own misconceptions and learn to respect my elders. As I formed my family in the Boden Japanese program, I also found another personality, another outlet, and another perspective. Just like how I had to leave the multilingual Houston to feel appreciation for home, I had to leave the United States to find my connection with English. During my semesters in Japan, Sri Lanka, and Indonesia, I learned to alter my spoken English to become grammatically incorrect and skipped over ostentatious adjectives and idioms in order to communicate better. In doing so, I began to appreciate the beauty in the fluidity of languages, from creolization and slang to the ability to code-switch seamlessly between multiple languages in order to communicate more nuanced connotations. We even had our nonverbal cues to fall back on when all else failed. I became more aware of the cultural differences and how much I did not yet know, but eagerly thought out. I listened to my hosts share nostalgic tales from their youth and offer life advice. They spoke with such emotion and wisdom in their native languages. I became addicted to those stories, and I worked harder to learn their languages so I can hear more. In return, they put up with my attempts, successful or not, and unceasingly cheered me on. The more I listened, the more I began to question the limits of language, in particular, that of English. While English has allowed me to travel cross borders to meet so many people, it is loaded with hegemonic remnants and incomplete inclusiveness. For example, in Houston, we don't really have seasons, at least not the 4 distinctive ones like in Maine. Yet, my friends and I tried so hard to make words fall and winter fit because those were the only terms we were taught. In the Indian Ocean island of Sri Lanka, those terms fit even less appropriately. Children only learned about the 4 seasons through English medium science textbooks and Western media, while terms such as dry or rainy may be much more applicable in the tropics. Although I had plenty of thoughts to share with my host family, I once again felt mute, as I did in my 2nd grade English as a second language class. I did not have enough vocabulary to recount my own story or to fully understand theirs. I realized that I couldn't encapsulate their experiences in the very few ways I knew. I needed to learn their languages and their forms of expressions. I needed to truly listen to their voices. Over our 4 years at Boden, we are constantly taught and pushed to find ways to express ourselves and our ideas. From our academically intense first-year seminars to our exploratory art forms, we learn to develop our own voices and use them to creatively to initiate a difference, no matter how small. Yet, caught in the fetters of self-expression, we must remind ourselves to consider our audience and their background beyond the Boden context. Would the elementary school students we tutor find contemplations of post-colonial literary theory interesting, or would they prefer a chat about cats versus dogs? Would the families coming in for income tax assistance want to be boggled down by tax terms, or can we rephrase everything in a more accessible way? Without first listening and understanding the position that my students and my clients are in, I cannot fully communicate with them from their perspective. Therefore, class of 2019, friends and families of the Boden community, I urge you, in addition to finding and exercising your voice, to also listen to and learn to speak the languages of the people that you will encounter in life. I hope that we can carry forward the common good through our most fundamental human trait to communicate with each other and to appreciate the value of the stories you will hear. To take a genuine interest in what others have to say and to reflect on our own perceptions. I want us all to find our languages and ways to showcase our voices to create change without forgetting to listen to one another, while keeping in mind that someone on this beautiful and changing planet will appreciate your humor, your voices, and your stories. Congratulations once again. Terima kasih, istuti, arigatou gozaimasu, and thank you. 谢谢大家。
Thank you, Gurley. That was fabulous. A nationally recognized leader in higher education, noted social historian, prominent scholar in the field of African American studies, Earl Lewis is the founding director of the Center for Social Solutions and a professor of history at the University of Michigan. He was president of the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, perhaps the most important institution supporting the humanities in our country today, between 2013 and 2018. And before that, he spent more than 8 years as Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs and the Asa Griggs Candler Professor of History and African American Studies at Emory University. Under his guidance as Mellon's 6th president, the foundation reaffirmed its commitment to the humanities, the arts, and higher education. And while he was president, the foundation made grants totaling more than $1.2 billion in support of these causes. Dr. Lewis spearheaded the implementation of Mellon's first strategic plan, reshaped key program areas, expanded the number and types of grantees receiving support, and implemented a range of important initiatives, including the Mellon Research Forum and a book series called Our Compelling Interests that investigates how diversity and social connectedness are imperative to our shared success and prosperity. Work he now continues at the University of Michigan. Dr. Lewis is a native of Tidewater, Virginia. He earned an undergraduate degree in history and psychology from Concordia College in Moorhead, Minnesota, and a PhD in history from the University of Minnesota. He's held faculty appointments at the University of California at Berkeley and the University of Michigan. And indeed, when he returned to Michigan last year, it was something of a homecoming, having served on the faculty and in the administration there for 15 years. During that time, he was deeply involved in the university's legal battle over its use of affirmative action and admissions. And while the university was involved in defending itself in court, Dr. Lewis led a campus dialogue on diversity and helped to marshal the academic resources that bolstered the case for the university. He's a fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences and the co-author or co-editor of 7 books. He has championed the importance of diversity and inclusion in the academy, enhancing graduate education, re-envisioning the liberal arts, exploring the role of digital tools for learning, and for the essential nature of the humanities. He has said, there is a certain kind of knowledge, a wisdom that is timeless and universally valuable to the human spirit, and the humanists have access to it. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Earl Lewis.
Thank you for that very lovely introduction. It's at those moments that I reflect and thought my late mother would have deeply appreciated it. Good afternoon, students, faculty, staff, alumni, co-honorands, friends, all. I'm honored and humbled to be delivering today's Baccalaureate Address. To the class of 2019, let me start by saying congratulations. This is a campus and community I have known, but until now did not know. Through my children, Suzanne and Max, I have filial ties to this place. You see, their maternal grandfather, Jack London, was a Boden alum, as are their uncles, Steve and Howard, and their first cousin, Andrea. In fact, their late mother, Jane, was to have attended Boden, but she rebelled and went to Kobe instead. In London lore, be it in the years just before World War II or during Vietnam or in the 1990s, Boden offered a way forward. Its setting and deep commitment to the liberal arts honed intellectual skills, to be sure, but the campus taught each of them about membership and community. For the son of a Lithuanian Jewish immigrant, Boden offered Jack multiple lessons about the bonds and boundaries of communities and community. His father, my kid's great-grandfather, has survived pogroms in his native land only to embrace the grace of hard work and sacrifice in his adopted land. As first a rag seller and eventually a small businessman, he worked to provide an alternative for his children. That Jack followed him into the family-owned furniture store business begs his own telling. For you see, Jack survived D-Day when his mates died on either side of him. He endured PTSD as he struggled through survivor's guilt. And I'm sure he never shook the sense, but for the grace of God, he may have died. Now, I'm not prepared to give Jack's life the full treatment it deserves, but I do want to expound upon one thread, the idea of grace. A couple of weekends ago, I traveled to my alma mater to chair its governing board. While there, I was reminded of the importance of grace. You see, as the school year came to a close, a video surfaced on social media of a Concordia student saying hateful and racist things in an alcohol-induced haze. When it first surfaced, we had no way of knowing its vintage. Yesterday? A year ago? 2 years ago? An investigation found the video featured a high school sophomore rather than a college freshman. We learned that when it first surfaced, the student apologized profusely and soon thereafter withdrew from social media, hoping to distance herself from an act she protested she deeply regretted. Unfortunately, a young man became angry with the young woman's male companion in the video. He rebooted the old screed. That act re-anchored her to a moment she had wanted to escape. Now, some might argue such is the price to pay for egregious, outlandish, and offensive behavior. Others might ask, how do we learn to forgive? Is there not room for restorative justice? If we can rehabilitate the incarcerated, must we forever imprison an adolescent whose behavior to date implies the actions that night were aberrant, that is singular in occurrence and behavior? This incident, in fact, may have died quietly with the end of an academic year, save for the local newspaper's decision to retell the story a week after graduation in the top of the full account. As I reflected on their treatment and decision to publish, I found myself drawn over and over again to the word grace. Is it possible for a community to gracefully forgive a member who made a mistake, apologized, and seemingly has made amends? Is it reasonable to expect humans to err, repent, learn, and move on? It would be a horrible mistake for me, a historian of a modern age, to begin to expound upon deeply held theological debates about grace, especially ones with rich scholarly traditions like divine grace. In fact, but in a world that is ever more connected or interconnected, we must ask about grace and the relationship between grace and community. In fact, our growing diversity has to be understood in this context as an asset to be defined, leveraged, and valued. In that video, one can find profound evidence of bonding, perversely so, as the speaker asserts the primacy of her racial group while denigrating all others. A community emboldened by grace recognizes the importance of intra-group bonding, but invites, no, encourages, intergroup bridging. This story, sad in its particulars, asks us to consider how in this highly fractionated age do we build not just vibrant or good or inclusive communities? How do we build grace-filled communities? How do we build grace-filled communities? Humans first formed communities as a way of marshaling sufficient resources and as a means of guarding those resources. A hunter traveling alone was always susceptible to injury or death, thereby endangering a family who depended on his or her resourcefulness. The coming together of several individuals ensured continued survival if one succumbed to unfortunate events. This active multiplying of individuals into communities helped produce kingdoms, empires, and today's nation-states. Along the way, we created new ways of marking insiders from outsiders. In simpler times, language, lineage, or color told the tale of who was in and who was out. Larger aggregations and more formal state systems required ever more complicated apparatuses. Today, passports, birth certificates, and governmental requirements determine and regulate the boundaries of formed communities. History has shown at their worst, such regulations spark deadly nationalism. Even as we pray, they do no more than spawn feelings of national pride. Graduations remind us that we too have our rituals of inclusion. We don our caps and gowns to signal our place within the academy. Different colored robes acquaint the casual viewer with a hint of previous connections, as well as the ways in which we entered this community. Baccalaureates, like convocations, call us back together after periods apart. They serve to punctuate, in a temporal sense, the continued forming of community. But on this day, as you prepare for graduation, I invite you to ask, have you done enough to build a community known for its grace? What are the tenets of a grace-filled community? Let me suggest 4. We begin with responsibility. A grace-filled community is not consumed with rank or status. It practices the principle of open communications and structured actions. This means that hierarchies are flattened. All are invited to speak, but if action is to follow the conversations, they do so through the structures of the college: committees, departments, faculty and staff senate or its equivalent, administrative officers, the board. In a grace-filled community, no one dares say, "It is not my job, so I don't have to worry about it." Members of a grace-filled community own the process to the end. In a grace-filled community, no one gets a pass. Such a community demands multiple architects. That new student graciously accepts his or her place among their elders, always expecting the best and the most. They enter fully cognizant of what they have achieved and what they are still to learn. They enter with confidence, but not arrogance. They enter expecting as much of themselves as they expect of others. For them, there's no sense of entitlement, for they know what they did yesterday in no way guarantees what they will accomplish in the future. While they pursue their degrees, they promise to stop long enough to be noticed and to try to improve the community now called home. A grace-filled community, after all, seeks institution builders. Students understand that a grace-filled community does not begin or end at the campus edge. They seek out those neighborhoods rich with aspirations, but not material possessions. Where others see the dispossessed, they see young and old who dream of a world never seen but one that's sensed, who dream of a world where hard work and perseverance inoculate you from life's miserable underbelly of poverty, crime, incarceration, drugs, and death. These students understand that becoming a prisoner need not mean the end of one's humanity. It is a community in which new students are taught to talk to their older classmates, for they're expected to become mentors and friends. A grace-filled community requires a staff that understands the difference between a job, a career, and a calling. If getting out of bed 5 days a week, 48 to 50 weeks per year only translates into a job, you're failing yourself and those around you. Nor is this simply a career that offers unbounded opportunities for advancement that should be your sole motivator. Members of a grace-filled community understand that they too are institution builders, and that the smallest gesture, when no one is even looking, is what's expected of them. So if they see a piece of paper on the ground, they don't walk by it just because that is not their job. They pick up the paper, toss it in the receptacle, hoping all along that others will take heed and do the same. Members of a grace-filled community exhibit the patience to embrace each encounter as another teaching moment. No matter how many times you have heard the question posed or how off-putting the questioner becomes. Remember, some people mask their insecurities by seeming exceptionally entitled. An abundance of privilege is no virtue in a grace-filled community. In such a community, we often find out how dependent we are on the good graces of others. Faculty have a disproportionate role to play in a grace-filled community. Students come to campus to work with us. Often our books or articles have captured their attention. They see themselves as would-be scholars in our image. Some may have heard us lecture and found themselves moved by what we said and what they heard. They are here now to emulate. Never assume that your fame is all they seek. In fact, I suspect many are intimidated by your accomplishments. While here, you will be accessible and you will challenge their orthodoxies, to be sure. But they want more than that. They want a connection. Of course, you are not to accept silences in the classroom because a grace-filled community requires every voice to be heard. It requires us all to listen well. In a grace-filled community, faculty help them and help students to comprehend the difference between student and scholar, and that irrespective of the degree they seek, Boden produces scholars. In this community of grace, faculty, in partnership with administrators, remain ever alert to the challenges and the opportunities of the day. Rather than plotting strategies to react, they design plans that anticipate. So as faculty and administrators own the college, they are the first to say, we need to diversify our curriculum, update our pedagogical approaches, anticipate digital delivery systems, reduce our reliance on traditional means of revenue, and support our students generously. They are the ones to say we are to reach out to alumni frequently, celebrate our intellectual accomplishments fully, and remind all we must mold an ethical world. Finally, a grace-filled community is peopled by those who care about others as much as they care about themselves. Returning to the story of the Concordia Co-ed. In a grace-filled community, we slow time and ask what we know before jumping to conclusions, only partially informed. Perhaps it is our age, when so many confuse fast and quick, expedient and prudent. How many times have we all sent an email when in hindsight a phone call would have worked better? Although it may have taken longer. Colleges, you see, are enduring institutions, inhabited by a variety of people. Both the schools and their inhabitants need care and nurturing. They need the gift of grace. In closing then, my wish for you, the class of 2019, is this. Leave this place with hope and drive, determination and humility, purpose and playfulness, and a commitment to bringing grace to whatever community you enter next. Remember, building and sustaining a grace-filled world should become your legacy. I believe that Boden has prepared you well. Without question, we count on it. Congratulations again, and thank you.
I'm sure it was not lost on anyone in this room some of the intersecting themes of the remarks this afternoon, which speaks, at least to me as I was reflecting on this, listening to Dr. Lewis, on how important these themes are and the need to reflect and act on all of them. So I want to thank Dean Foster, Dr. Lewis, and Gurley again for remarkable remarks this afternoon. Thank you. I would now like to invite George Lopez and our senior singers, Rowan Etzel, Nolan Roach, and Kevin Yu, back to the podium to lead us in our alma mater, Raise Songs to Boden. The words are again on the back of your program, and I would ask you, if you're able, to please stand.
Songs to Boden, praise the fame, and sound above the glorious name. To Boden, Boden, lift your song, and may the music echo long. Oh, with spring pines and campus fair, with sturdy light filling the air. Boden from birth, our nurturer and friend, to thee we pledge our love again, again. While now amid thy halls we stay, and breathe thy spirit day by day, oh, may we thus full worthy be to march in that proud company of poets, leaders, and each one who brings thee fame by deeds well done. Boden from birth, our nurturer and friend, to thee we pledge our love again, again.
Thank you all again. That was beautiful. Congratulations again to our seniors and soon to be graduates. We look forward to seeing you all tomorrow on the quad for our 214th commencement. And I now would like to invite our seniors, families, and friends next door to the Farley Field House for the Down East Lobster Bake.